Welcome to Season 5 of Mind Matters. I'm Ivana, and this season, we're getting sensory. Because your senses aren't just how you experience the world, they're how you interpret it. Sight, sound, touch, taste, smell. Why do certain smells trigger instant nostalgia? Why does physical touch soothe some people and overwhelm others? Because once you understand your senses, you understand why you feel what you feel. It's 2:37 a.m. in a neonatal intensive care unit. A nurse, I'll call her Maya, leans over the clear plastic lid of an isolette. Inside lies Alexander, born 26 weeks premature. His skin is so thin you can trace the subway lines of his veins in pale blue. He isn't crying, he isn't moving, just the soft rise and fall of ribs the size of thumbnails. Maya does something that isn't in any protocol. She peels off her gloves, slides her bare hands inside, and cups his tiny body. One hand under his skull, the other under his feet. She doesn't stroke, doesn't shift. She simply holds. And in that stillness, something happens. His monitor stops screaming. The spikes even out. The frantic numbers descend. His fingers uncurl, like he's letting go of something ancient, like he's saying, finally. Touch isn't always about healing in moments of crisis. It's often the quietest form of presence. A hospice nurse once told me about a patient nearing the end of life who hadn't spoken in days. Nothing reached her until a volunteer, not knowing what else to do, began to comb her hair. The woman exhaled, smiled faintly, and whispered, "Thank you." That's all it took. Not to erase, but to soften. Even science backs this up. In a NICU study, preterm infants who received just 15 minutes of gentle massage 3 times a day gained 47% more weight per day and were discharged nearly a week earlier than those who didn't. This is where we begin. Today, we're exploring something invisible but unforgettable: touch. How it builds us, breaks us, heals us. And why, despite all our technology and words, sometimes what we need most is a hand on our shoulder. Touch is the first sense to develop in utero. Around 8 weeks gestation, embryos begin to respond to tactile stimulation. Long before we can see, hear, or speak, we feel. It's also the last sense to fade before death. Hospice caregivers often describe dying patients who no longer speak or recognize names, but who calm when a hand is held, a cheek is stroked. We are quite literally creatures built to feel the world before we understand it. Neuroscientist David Linden once called touch the unappreciated sense. But perhaps the reason it's overlooked is because it's omnipresent, woven into every moment of connection. It is touch, not sight or sound, that builds the foundation of attachment in infancy. And this isn't just poetic language, it's biological. Let's get into the science. Inside our skin are receptors called C-tactile afferents. These unmyelinated nerve fibers don't respond to every kind of touch. They're picky. They light up for gentle, slow strokes, like a caress on the forearm or a mother's soothing touch. Research by McGlone revealed that these fibers send their signals not to the somatosensory cortex, the brain's map of the body, but to the insula, the emotional center. So effective touch isn't just felt, it's felt emotionally. It explains why we can feel comforted by someone brushing our hair or placing a hand on our back, and why the absence of such touch, especially early in life, is more than a physical void. It becomes an emotional scar. A 2023 study from the Karolinska Institute revealed just how foundational effective touch is, not only in comfort, but in cognitive development. Infants who received more frequent gentle skin-to-skin contact in the first 6 weeks of life showed accelerated development in brain areas responsible for emotional self-regulation and social communication. Their EEG scans revealed more synchronized activity between the prefrontal cortex and the insula, the same region activated by C-tactile, CT, stimulation. In simple terms, the more they were softly touched, the better their brains learned to manage feelings. This fits into a broader pattern seen across cultures and even species. Take kangaroo care, for instance, used in neonatal units worldwide. Premature infants who spend time lying skin to skin on a caregiver's chest not only gain weight faster and cry less, but also show lower cortisol levels and more stable heart rates. Their tiny nervous systems are being soothed and shaped by CT afferents, helping them regulate stress long before they understand what stress even is. There's even a policy implication here. In 2022, Japan's Ministry of Health launched a skinship initiative encouraging tactile play and physical closeness between parents and children. Why? A growing body of research suggests declining physical interaction, replaced by screens and isolated routines, may be subtly fraying the social fabric. One message emerges: gentle, intentional touch isn't a luxury. It's a biological necessity. Stroke on the arm, shared cuddle, reassuring hand on the back. These aren't small gestures. They are neural inputs that shape how we relate, how we bond, and how we become emotionally whole. Without them, it's not just loneliness we risk, it's neurological undernourishment. Ever notice how a hug can slow your breathing? That's not imagined. That's oxytocin at work. It is released during effective touch. It promotes trust, reduces fear, and activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the one that tells your body, you're safe, relax. Tiffany Field at the University of Miami found that even brief massage sessions significantly increased oxytocin and serotonin levels while reducing cortisol, the stress hormone. This matters. Chronically elevated cortisol doesn't just affect mood. It's linked to impaired immune function, cardiovascular issues, and even memory loss. In her studies, infants who received daily massage therapy not only cried less and slept better, but also gained weight faster. Strong indicators of reduced stress and improved regulation. In adults, the benefits are equally compelling. A randomized controlled trial by Rappaport in 2020 demonstrated that 6 weeks of twice-weekly Swedish massage therapy significantly reduced symptoms of generalized anxiety disorder, with the most substantial improvements observed in the first weeks of treatment. Moreover, research by Sansone and Schmidt showed the positive effects of tender touch massage in elderly nursing home residents, noting reductions in anxiety and agitation-related behaviors. Touch communicates safety not just through words, but through nerve endings, hormones, and breath. In a world increasingly filtered through screens, remembering to reach out, literally, might be one of the most powerful health interventions we have. Let's talk about skin hunger. It sounds poetic, but it's clinical. It's the biological need for human touch. In our digital world, where interactions are often mediated through screens, a phenomenon known as a skin hunger and the deep-seated need for human touch is becoming more prevalent. It's a recognized condition with significant implications for our mental and physical health. Julian Holt Lundstad, a prominent researcher in psychology and neuroscience, has extensively studied the effects of social connections on health. Her research indicates that lacking social connection can increase the risk of premature death to a similar extent as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. The COVID-19 pandemic exacerbated this issue as social distancing measures led to prolonged periods without physical contact for many individuals. A study published in Nature Neuroscience found that acute social isolation activates the same brain regions associated with hunger cravings, suggesting that our need for social interaction and touch is as fundamental as our need for food. touch deprivation doesn't only affect those who are single or living alone, it can also impact individuals in relationships. According to an article on Very Well Mind, even people in romantic partnerships can experience touch starvation if physical affection is lacking. This deprivation can lead to increased stress, anxiety, and feelings of loneliness. In response to the growing awareness of touch deprivation, some innovative solutions have emerged. For instance, a professional cuddling salon in Poland offers clients non-sexual physical contact to alleviate feelings of loneliness and stress. So, while technology has transformed the way we connect, it cannot replace the fundamental human need for touch. Recognizing and addressing skin hunger is essential for our mental and physical health, and it requires a collective effort to create environments that value and facilitate human contact. What happens when no one hugs you? You don't just feel sad, you get sick. Remember Harry Harlow? In the 1950s, he ran a series of controversial but landmark experiments. Infant rhesus monkeys were given two surrogate mothers, one made of wire with a feeding bottle, the other covered in soft cloth but no milk. The monkeys always chose the cloth mother, even when hungry, even when hurt. This showed us that nourishment without comfort is not enough. We need softness to thrive, not just physically, but emotionally. Did you know a warm cup can change your judgments? In a classic Yale experiment, volunteers who briefly held a hot coffee cup before they knew the study had even started rated a stranger as friendlier and more trustworthy than peers holding an iced cup. The only difference was temperature, yet social evaluation shifted in lockstep with the warmth in their hands. Psychologists call this an embodied cognition effect. The brain reuses physical concepts, warm equals friendly, when forming abstract social impressions. Did you know that texture, weight, and hardness help you make big decisions? A follow-up series in Science showed that simply handling a heavy clipboard led participants to see job applicants as more important. Touching rough sandpaper made them expect rougher negotiations. And sitting on a hard chair produced tougher bargaining offers. Your skin is quietly feeding metaphors straight into higher-order reasoning systems. Weight equals serious. Rough equals difficult. Hard equals unyielding. When people feel lonely, they look for literal warmth. Across cultures, individuals scoring high on loneliness scales report taking longer, hotter showers and baths, an unconscious attempt to substitute social warmth with physical heat. Experimental work confirms the link. Cooling a lonely participant's skin heightens feelings of isolation, while warming them eases it. Why this matters for modern dating apps. Swipe-based courtship is great for quick visual matches, yet it strips out the micro-touch signals, warm handshakes, an accidental brush on the forearm, all that evolution shaped to test trust and compatibility. The result is a rise in skin hunger and persisting loneliness and difficulties in matching up. But what about those who flinch when touched? After trauma, especially physical or sexual trauma, the brain learns that touch equals danger. The amygdala goes into overdrive. The body remembers what the mind tries to forget. A compelling study that illustrates the healing potential of safe, consensual touch in trauma recovery is a randomized controlled trial on somatic experiencing therapy. This body-focused approach showed significant reductions in post-traumatic stress disorder symptoms and depression among participants. The study reported large effect sizes, indicating that somatic experiencing therapy may be an effective therapy method for PTSD. In the context of trauma, the body's response to touch can become conditioned to associate physical contact with danger, leading to heightened sensitivity and avoidance behaviors. Somatic experiencing therapy addresses this by helping individuals tune into their internal sensations, allowing them to process and release stored trauma in a controlled and supportive environment. This process can gradually retrain the nervous system to perceive touch as safe, fostering a renewed sense of bodily autonomy and trust. Complementing this, trauma-informed massage therapy has also shown promise. A study by the American Massage Therapy Association highlighted that massage therapy can aid in down-regulating the sympathetic nervous system, producing positive benefits that address hypervigilance, exaggerated startle response, problems in concentration, and sleep disturbances. And finally, yoga-based bodywork, particularly trauma-sensitive yoga, has been effective in trauma recovery. A study published in the Journal of Clinical Psychiatry found that women with chronic treatment-resistant PTSD who participated in a trauma-sensitive yoga program showed significant reductions in PTSD symptoms compared to a control group. Trauma-sensitive yoga emphasizes body awareness and choice, allowing individuals to regain a sense of control and safety in their bodies. Touch isn't just biology, it's culture. Back in the 1960s, psychologist Sidney Girard conducted a wonderfully weird observational study. He sat in cafes around the world and watched friends interact. How often did they touch each other during a 1-hour conversation? In Puerto Rico, 180 times. That's a touch every 20 seconds, like a full body punctuation mark. Paris, 110 touches. But in London, a cold, proper 0, not a single friendly pat or shoulder tap. His point? The rules of touch are learned, not just felt. What feels natural in Naples might feel unthinkable in Oslo. Cultural scripts dictate how often, where, and between whom touch is considered appropriate, or not. And when those scripts lean toward restraint, we risk losing fluency in one of humanity's oldest dialects, the language of comfort. But we don't just see this in research, we feel it in daily life. In team sports, you'll notice something curious. High fives, fist bumps, shoulder bumps, chest bumps, if things go really well. It's not just about celebration. A study in emotion found that NBA teams who touched more had better performance later in the season, even when accounting for skill. Physical connection boosts group trust. In healthcare, caregivers who offer brief, warm contact, like a hand on the arm, are often rated as more compassionate and trustworthy. It turns out, warmth isn't just a trait, it's a tactile signal. Even in rituals, from Maori hongi greetings or nose touching to celebratory dances in Senegal, touch synchronizes movement and emotion. It creates belonging not through talk, but through tactile rhythm. And then there's the humble high five. Think about it. It's spontaneous, affirming, requires cooperation, and ends in a satisfying slap, a micro moment of social electricity. Scientists call these thin slices of behavior, tiny bursts that communicate huge amounts of trust and joy in milliseconds. So, yes, touch is biology, but it's also choreography. It's how cultures rehearse empathy, how strangers become teammates, and how we say, I see you, I'm with you, I've got you, without saying a word. And I dug up some interesting intercultural psychiatry data for this segment. Low-touch cultures feel the pinch, literally. An Oxford-led experiment in the UK, a famously hands-off society, asked volunteers to sit still while a stranger gave them a single, light stroke across the back of the hand. 5 minutes later, their loneliness scores had dropped compared with a no-touch control group, even though every participant started the day believing they weren't the hugging type. The authors conclude that cultural training does not vaccinate the brain against the psychiatric cost of touch deprivation. The underlying need resurfaces the moment skin contacts skin. Love plus touch is a global pairing, even where public affection is taboo. A cross-cultural survey of 7,681 romantic partners in 37 countries found that affectionate behaviors, hugging, stroking, hand-holding, tracked feelings of love almost one-to-one, whether the couple lived in São Paulo, Beijing, or Riyadh. In other words, culture can mute frequency. But when people do break the rule and reach out, the psychological meaning is universally positive. Stronger commitment, lower attachment anxiety, better mood. South Americans get the biggest mental health gains from touch therapies. A 2024 Nature Human Behavior mega-analysis revealed that massage, hand-holding, and kangaroo-type care produced significantly larger improvements in mood and blood pressure in South American samples than in North American or European ones. The authors suggest a cultural match when therapy aligns with South American society's high contact norms and the nervous system soaks up the benefit. Communication scientist Corey Floyd tracked 500 adults across 4 nations and showed that affection deprivation, or wanting more touch than you get, predicts depression, immune complaints, and poor sleep even after standard loneliness scales are held constant. So, treating social isolation and distress may require adding literal skin-in-the-game interventions, not only social skills coaching. Popular media have caught on. A 2024 news feature on a Dutch-German review published the title, Hugs Lower Pain and Depression. The science is moving from journals into public health conversations worldwide. So where does all this leave us? We start small, literally skin deep. Not with grand gestures or 5-step plans, but with a hand held just a moment longer on the walk to school, with a hug that doesn't break at the first awkward beat, with the slow rhythm of cuddling with your pet, letting presence replace distraction. Because we are not just minds. We are nervous systems braided into flesh, hair, and heartbeat. Touch isn't decoration. It's a sensory language, a wordless way we say, I'm here. You're not alone. So tonight, try something quiet, a small private experiment. Ask yourself, when was the last time I reached out with no goal but warmth? Not to reassure, not to fix, just to connect. Could a single shoulder squeeze tilt someone from anxious to calm? Could a touch remind them that we still belong to each other? Science says yes. We've seen it. A soft brush of the arm drops cortisol. A warm hand triggers oxytocin. Hearts sink. Breathing slows. The insula lights up. But honestly, we knew this before the MRI, before the journals, before the clinical trials. We've always known that safe touch says, you're safe here. So here's your gentle challenge from Mind Matters. Offer someone a high five, a fist bump, a shoulder pat, a hand to hold. Let your touch be the punctuation your words forget. Let it say what text never can. I see you. You matter. You're not alone. I'm Ivana, and this was The Skin We Think In. Be curious. Be kind. And today, let your touch finish the sentence. I will link all the studies and references in the show's description. If you found this discussion insightful, please consider sharing it with friends, family, or colleagues. Let's keep the conversation going about how we can make this affluent corner of Europe a healthier, more equitable place for everyone. Until next time, remember, your mind matters, and taking care of it is the best investment you'll ever make.